popcorn, and strap-in cinema. This isn't about who's next. This is about who's now. This time is different. The NBA playoffs, Friday on ESPN.
Huh. Noom has GLP-1 meds now?
Yes, Noom combines medication with healthy habits so you can lose the weight and keep it off.
Yeah, GLP-1s starting at $149.
That's Noom smart.
Noom, the smart way to lose weight.
This is my coffee shop. We just moved into a bigger space, brought on another employee, and ordered new branded gear for the team. It was so easy. I just chose my products, added our logo, and placed my order. Bring your own team together with custom gear. Get started today at customink.com.
Boring.
Certain you're on mute?
Yeah. Are you for imprint certain?
Certainty matters. Experience certainty with 4imprint. High-quality promotional products, expert service, and on-time delivery. Visit 4imprint.com.
4imprint, for certain.
The Rockets, the Warriors, and we expect a war. My turn, your turn. Between Chef Curry and the Butler here. Curry, three. Oh! Curry dialing long distance. He'll throw up a shot. Oh, geometrically, that should not have happened.
Not one, but two closers on the same team.
That puts an exclamation mark on this Golden State win in Game 1.
Good stuff on the calls last night. We opened with the Warriors' big win, big performances again from both Steph Curry and Jimmy Butler. And here's the good news if you're a fan of Golden State. When they win Game 1, under Steve Kerr, they are 20-1 in playoff series. You'll remember the only one they didn't win. It was the 2016 final against the Bronze Cavs when they were up 3-1, and then it got away from them. Carlos Boozer, Marcus Morris with me here. Let's run the floor through the weekend in the NBA playoffs. Celtics cruised past Orlando yesterday, but in the fourth quarter, Jason Tatum lands awkwardly on the wrist after being fouled. X-rays negative. But here we go. Let's go with this. Booze, do the Celtics still win this series easily, even if Tatum is compromised?
Yes, they got so many other guys that can get the job done.
Yeah, they will need him ultimately, though, right? I mean, if they need to give him rest for a day or two or a game or two or whatever the case may be.
Yeah, if they want to win a championship, you need Jason Tatum. But to get out the first round, they have other guys.
Yeah, again, the X-rays initially negative. Next, yesterday, the Thunder beat the Grizzlies by 51 points, which is the 5th biggest margin of victory in postseason history. So if I said OKC is going to remain undefeated until the NBA Finals, they have this series and then the winner of Nuggets-Clippers. Would you buy that?
No, even though as impressive as they looked in Game 1, they were terrific, checked off all the boxes. When they get past this round, the Clippers and the Nuggets will definitely get a win.
Yeah, you like the Clippers. I think that's a matchup that should be tough for this no matter how it's played.
Great matchup.
All right, we'll keep an eye on that. And then Saturday night, primetime Lakers run off the court at home by the Timberwolves despite a hot start from Luka Doncic, who finished with 37. Where do you point the finger of blame, Booze, at the Lakers for their Game 1 loss?
I mean, as opposed to just saying, the Timberwolves did their job, but for the Lakers, the others have to step up. Only 13 bench points, Greeny.
13 bench points. For LA, it's interesting because the Minnesota bench players, their quote-unquote supporting cast, all had a pretty good game, or many of them had a pretty game. My old buddy Jalen Rose always used to say to me when we were doing NBA together, and always sticks in my head, the role players tend to play great at home. That's where you count on it. This time, it seemed to flip a little bit here. It was Minnesota that got the good performance from the quote-unquote other players.
Yeah, McDaniels was probably the best player on the court last night, did a great job. Nas Reed had 23 off the bench. The others from Minnesota showed up. This is a series where everybody picked the Lakers. We picked the Lakers too. Mm-hmm. Minnesota has a chip on their shoulder, and they're playing like they have something to prove.
Well, we know that Shannon Sharpe has picked the Lakers repeatedly and always in rhyming form. He does it in couplet form, and he's got them winning in 5. Well, Stephen A. watched the game on Saturday night, and he was giving Shannon the business. Take a look at the tweet here from Stephen A. Someone just texted me with this message to send directly to Shannon Sharpe. AAA, NWA, I don't care what Shannon has to say, Lakers ain't winning in in 5. So let's start, Marcus, with your thoughts on how well that rhymed. And secondly, I will ask you that ever-popular question. Was this a bad game or a bad sign, Marcus Morris, for the Lakers?
I would say just a bad game, right? The others just didn't come to play. Anytime you get 48 points from Jaden McDaniels and Naz Reid, something wasn't right in that scouting report, right? I just don't think guys were just amping up to play. You're playing at home in crypto arena. You just have to have more energy, like offensive rebounding, diving on the floor. The best bright part about it was Luka came to play, right? We've seen the Luka dominance, and LeBron James, we know how effective he could be in this series, but the others have to play better and not just making shots, but just with more energy, more aggressiveness, and better on the defensive end.
Well, you're not the only one who noticed that the aggressiveness didn't seem to be there. Let's put up the Magic tweet, because Magic Johnson, one of the greatest Lakers of them all, and obviously still so much a part of what they're doing in L.A., tweeted, Coach J.J. Redick did a great job all season, but he didn't do a good job for Game 1. The Lakers stood around on offense, played too much one-on-one basketball, and he didn't make any necessary adjustments. Booz, when you see a team that got beat to the loose ball, is that on the coach? Do you point the finger of blame, at least for Game 1, at J.J. Redick?
I mean, the coach's job is to get the guys prepared for the game. Once you're on the court, it's the player's job. In my opinion, the players got to make the plays. The coaches can put you in position to have success, and get you prepared for the game. But if I see a ball on the floor and it's you and me, Greeny, I'm getting the ball. Sorry, Greeny. That's got to be the attitude of the guys out there on the court.
Yes. Well, if it's you and me, I'm not really worried about it. I would bet on you, too. But in general, when it's one NBA player against another NBA player, I mean, if the Timberwolves, quote unquote, well, if they looked ready for playoff intensity and the Lakers didn't, is that a bad sign?
That could be a sign on the coach. Did you have your guys ready for the game tonight? Minnesota looked ready. The Lakers did not.
Right. That's the concern. So, Marcus, give me one adjustment. What's one thing the Lakers have to do differently or better to win Game 2? Otherwise, they are in big trouble in round 1.
You have to respect the others. Like I said, 48 points from 2 guys that's not named Anthony Edwards is unacceptable, right? You have to play these guys straight up and down. But also, listen, they did differently in the regular season. This is the playoffs. Everything goes out the window. Scouting report goes out the window. You have to come out. You have to guard your yard. You have to play hard. You just have to master the intensity. So the one thing I would say is be ready. Be ready to fight.
We're going to find that out. Meanwhile, Friday, we've got a trio of NBA playoff Game 3s. We will have Celtics Magic starting at 7 Eastern. That's on ESPN. We have the Pacers and Bucks at 8 Eastern. That's going to begin on ESPNU. And then the Lakers and Timberwolves will tip at 9:30 Eastern on ESPN. So all the action will be on ESPN coming back on Friday. Meanwhile, the action on Thursday and forward will be the NFL Draft. We're 3 days away. Let's play Fact or Fiction. Orlowski, if I said the Dallas Cowboys need to draft a wide receiver in round 1, is that fact or fiction?
That's fact. Tet McMillan out of Arizona is an intriguing guy just because of his frame. Matthew Golden out of Texas, his vertical speed. CeeDee Lamb's sensational. But there's no point in only having a number 1 wide receiver if that's the only thing that you have. Emeka Egbuka being that number 2 guy out of Ohio State. Dak Prescott had to force the football last year to CeeDee Lamb. They need someone opposite CeeDee to take advantage of it rather than force him the ball.
D-Wood, I've always found this an interesting one. Wide receiver, I guess, is no longer a luxury, right? If you're the Cowboys, you have a variety of holes, and they do. How would you feel about them taking a wide receiver with that 12th pick in this draft? D-Wood, is that the right direction for Dallas to go?
Seems a little rich considering this wide receiver draft is not highly heralded, but I get Dan's point here. I mean, the discrepancy between, CeeDee Lamb and their number 2 was just like it was like a canyon. They need to address the number 2 position. You could make the case they could go running back in this draft. There's no, I think that's an option as well. But they have to find a number 2 receiver via either the draft or somewhere in the rest of free agency, because Dallas offense doesn't operate at the level we've been accustomed to seeing without another viable weapon opposite CeeDee Lamb.
Doesn't feel like Ashton Genty will fall to them at 12. If he did, that would be an interesting conversation.
They do have 10 picks, right? Yeah. They could move up to get somebody. Wide receiver, I think they could go wide receiver at 12. They know they need a number 2. McMillan and Matthew Golden, both worth watching there. But if the value's there, I could also see them doing defensive line or corner at that spot.
Graziano, you get the next one. Let's go to Chicago. The fans, they're fired up. They have the 10th pick. If I said the Bears will be a playoff team if Ashton Genty falls to them, is that fact or fiction?
I'm still going to say fiction just out of respect for the rest of the division, right? You had 3 playoff teams in that division last year, and obviously the Bears were not one of them. So fighting uphill, I think they'll be a better team this year because of the moves they've made this offseason. I just still think it's a really tough fight through that division to get to the playoffs from where they are.
Orlovsky, I was chatting with a big Bears fan yesterday that everyone watches here on ESPN by the name of Michael Wilbon. He's asking me a bunch of questions about what they're going to do. If the running back is sitting there at 10, Dan, should they take him?
I like Genty there. I like Tyler Warren a little bit more. I would say fiction on the question of the playoff. And Genty's a really nice player. I mean, very difficult to tackle, ability to run away from people. This is an offense under Ben Johnson that's going to try to emulate the run game that Detroit had. They don't have the offensive line, at least all 5 of those pieces that Detroit had. Let's keep this honest. The Bears are going to become a playoff team if Caleb Williams goes and becomes something he hasn't become.
Right.
He goes and becomes a very much so in the pocket, operational quarterback that plays on time and rhythm. Is he capable of doing it? Yes. Will he do it consistently? That's to be determined. If he does, I think the Bears become a playoff football team.
Are they more likely, very quickly, Dan, is he more likely to take that step if they have the unbelievable running back behind him or if they have another weapon in the middle of the field like Tyler Warren at tight end?
Another weapon in the middle of the field like Tyler Warren at tight end, but it more so is going to be upon the offensive line and then his own growth and timing.
All right, and then D. Wood, here's the last factor fiction. If I said there will be 4 quarterbacks drafted Thursday night, which means round 1, is that fact or fiction?